at this city council meeting. Because in Matthew 18:20 it says, "For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them." Again, Father, I would like to agree with you when you gave us the scripture in 1 Corinthians 13:13. 3 things will last forever: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. Faith, hope, and love. Faith that you, Lord, haven't left us during all the turmoil, strife, and heartbreak. Lord, we know that all that we are experiencing, although new to us, is not new to you, and you have always been there to lead mankind on the journey to victory. Hope that with you, we will see transformation, peace, and healing. Matthew 22:37-39 says, Jesus replies, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." Love, that is the greatest of all. Love that proves to ourselves and to others that we love and care, as you, Father, love and care unconditionally. And I pray fervently that we are willing to step out in action, committed to faith, hope, and love. James 1:22-25 says, "Be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man looking at his face in a mirror, and he sees himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of man he was. But he who looks into the perfect law of freedom and continues in it, and is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this is one who will be blessed in what he does." Father, bless our community. Help us to come together to make it a community that will be a beacon of godly love and light, a community that will be doers of your word, an entire community whose hearts have been reformed to look like your heart, full of unconditional love. If God is with us, who can be against us? Father, we know that your door is always open. Help us to hear your words. Help us to have the courage to walk through that door. We also ask for your covering and protection over Freeport and everyone in it. By your authority and presence, we pray that you would confound, expose, and thwart any intentional or even unintentional strategy that would come against faith, hope, and love. Nothing is impossible with you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Thank you, Linda. Now we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Kurt, I received a text that the YouTube feed is not working. Can you check that? Present in person, Mayor Miller.
Here.
Alderpersons Borneman,
Present.
McClanathan,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Oh, that's where you said. Okay. So, okay. Busker,
Here.
Mysick,
Here.
and Barbaray.
Here.
Attending a teleconference, Alderperson Brescia. Alderperson Brescia, can you hear us? Let's give her a moment. Attending in person for staff, Manager Bucas, Director Kopansky. Is he not electronically? Director Richter, Chief Summers, Chief Liggett, Director Sutman is here, Clerk Anderson, and present Legal Counsel Attorney Zito. Staff attending remotely, Zupkoff. Were we expecting him? Is Huffines present? Yeah, Kurt, how many things can you check at one time? I don't think the teleconferencing have audio. Thank you. Okay. Kurt, is it showing that Director Zupkoff is on? No. He is absent. Do you have Kopansky? Yes. Tom, can you hear us? Alderperson Brashaw, one more time. I don't think they can hear us, Kurt. Yes. Oh, thank you. I need to update my sheet. Thank you. Did he do something? I'm sorry, was it? Alderperson Brashaw, can you hear us? Can any of the directors hear? Kopansky, Hines? And Mark Brashaw present? Assume she can hear us.
Okay, we'll move on, and hopefully those technicalities can be worked out. If you are able to, please join us by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Alderman Meisig.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with item number 1 tonight is the approval of the agenda, and just one little detail on there, we will not be having executive session, so is there a motion for that approval?
So moved.
Second.
Art. Or Isaac.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Ross. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the approval of the agenda?
Meisick,
Aye.
Berberet,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Russ,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Attorney Zito, what do we do about Brashaw? Can she give a thumbs up or something if she can hear us? Absent. We're marking Alderperson Brashaw as absent, so the motion passes 7-0.
Okay, item number 2 is public comment on agenda. First, we have signed in is Stacy Whitfield. Thank you, Stacy. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment basically on the Social Justice Committee you guys are gonna make some decisions on. And I'm not sure how true this information is that's passed along on Facebook with the names, but there are some great people on this list. The concern of the community is, where are the younger generation, the millennials? Where are those that's not gonna agree with you? Where are those who are not in your circle? You gotta get to know all citizens, and this list that I'm looking at is pretty much in everybody's circle around here on the city council member. And you gotta step outside of your comfort zone. You really have to start listening to all citizens and not just your friends and family. It's time to take action outside of your comfort. So I'm just really asking you all to reconsider. I can read the names. I don't know if this is right or not, but you got the Mayor Jody Miller, TJ Jackson, awesome person at Highland, but you guys know him very well. You got the fire chief, the chief of police, third ward alderman, great idea. Anthony Dedman's an awesome guy as well. Anna Alvarado, I believe she works for the city. Charles Threadgill. I'm just listing names, though. Here, where are the 20 and 30-year-olds? What is going to represent that crowd as well? What's also going to represent those who wants to be involved, been born and raised in the community, and just time to make a change. And I'm really asking you guys to reconsider this list if this is all true. Thank you.
Thank you. And next on the list is Carl Ott. And Carl, you have 3 minutes as well.
Thank you. I'm here tonight to address the mayor, the city manager, city council, police chief, along with the entirety of the Social Justice Committee. I first want to congratulate you on making it this far. Congratulations is apparently what people do when people go out of their way to combat racism, systemic inequality, and police brutality. Now that I've got the pleasantries out of the way, and intended sarcasm as well, let me tell you how I really feel. These problems aren't unknown. Racism, systemic inequality, and police brutality are older than everyone in this room. If you're new to this reality, or you just recently hopped on board, I want to welcome you. Getting rid of racism, systemic inequality, and police brutality will require far more than listening. It will require doing. What we do about it isn't a mystery either. The solutions already exist. You just need the political will and the humanity to implement them. No matter the financial cost, no matter the political cost. Is there really a financial or political cost to ensuring the safety and well-being of 25% of our local citizens? I won't yet comment on the makeup of this committee and your selections, but I will point out that there should be at least a few people in their 20s and 30s on the committee. There should also be representation from at least a couple of folks from the LGBTQ community who are overwhelmingly impacted by these policies in our minority communities. I urge each and every one of you involved in this committee, as well as each and every citizen in our community, to take a no-nonsense approach to this Committee on Social Justice. I insist that everyone be adamant that we will bring the urgency needed to this plight, the urgency needed to the plight of our Black, brown, and other communities of color without our own sensibilities getting in the way. I grew up here, and I'm almost done, so if I go 30 seconds over, please bear with me. I grew up here. I grew up in a racist family here. Many of them still are. I didn't think I was after I moved away. Actually, having Black, brown, and other minority friends taught me that just because I didn't say racist things didn't mean I still didn't hold prejudicial feelings. Once I conquered my prejudicial feelings, it still didn't get me off the hook of being an anti-racist. Standing up for my Black...
You can finish that at the end if you'd like. I mean, you
I
have...
literally have 2 lines left if I can finish.
Go ahead.
Standing up for my Black, brown, and other minority brothers and sisters wasn't the last step. Once I got there, I couldn't believe what a fool I had been all of those years. Now here I am telling those of you who are in charge that the path has already been cleared. Not by me, but by so many of us before. Pick up a book from a Black expert on racism. Watch a documentary on queer theory. Call those of us who live our lives with these representations as we walk through the community. Walk with us, walk with them, show up. All lives matter when Black lives matter.
Thank you, Carl. And we have Peter Van. Peter, you have 3 minutes as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Van, and I'm nervous. But as a young person, I wanted to speak on about the Social Justice Committee as well. A lot of what I wanted to address has already been said, but one of the things I really want to hit back on again is the lack of the younger generation into this Social Justice Committee, because the younger generation is what is going to be taking over for the older generation. And as we see here, there's a lot of older people that have a set perspective as they grow up, and being younger people can bring in a lot of new perspectives, and their new ideas can be opened up to a lot of possibilities. One thing that I was curious about was how the Social Justice Committee was, how did you guys pick the candidates for them? Because there didn't seem to be any like elections for chairs or co-chairs or members. It just seemed that you guys kind of picked whoever you guys wanted. There wasn't any reach to ask the community about who they wanted on this Social Justice Committee. And even the leaders of the Social Justice Committee, they're not young people. They're people in charge with power. And as the mayor, it is very clear that you have a lot on your plate and a lot of things to do, and that your time is very valuable. So my thought is, how do you plan on supplementing this Social Justice Committee or be involved in it with everything you have to do? Even with the protests, I'm glad that you were able to make it out, but I know you also had a lot on your plate, so I'll leave that there.
Thank you, Peter. And my understanding, Wendy, you didn't get signed in, but you would like to? Okay. And I'll just write your name on the list then.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Pearson. I'd first like to thank the young people in this town for stepping up to the plate and having the courage to go the distance. I'd like to thank them for having the courage to go into the city and talk to those individuals that they needed to talk to in order to be able to do it the proper way. I, too, am not happy with what has occurred in regards to the choosing of individuals within our community to represent our community. I've never been happy with that, because unlike those of you that sit around these tables, you have no idea what goes on in our community. You have no idea who represents our community. You have no idea who's in our community. And you have no idea what the problems are in our community. And some of the people that you've chosen to sit on those committees have no idea as well. And I'm going to make it very clear to some of the individuals that have talked to me in regards to this committee and wanted me to sit on this committee. Chief, I thank you for your input. I know that you thought that I should be sitting on this committee. There are a number of other people that thought I should be sitting on this committee as well, but I'm going to make it very clear to you guys that I did not want to sit on this committee. I did not want to sit on this committee because I've sat on a number of committees. So many that I can't count. I can't count them because they came to a dead end with no results. I hope and pray that this is different. But if I'm going to be honest, I don't see any difference in this than anything else that I've sat on. Because it's the same old thing. It's SSDD. And I won't say what that means because I think most of you know. Yesterday at the rally, I brought out 5 pieces of paper, 5 separate committees that I've sat on. Then nothing happened. I've sat on committees from 3 administrations in this town. I sat on the East Side Task Force Committee. I sat on the committee to go to Rock Island. We went to one meeting and no other meeting was was set after that. My confidence in this committee and and your choices in this committee, I have to tell you, are nil and none. And the only thing I can do is pray that those individuals that I do have confidence in that are sitting on that committee, that happen to be Reverend Charles Threadgill, Pastor Ramos, TJ, and there may be one other that will speak the truth and speak their mind and not be dictated by what anybody else thinks or feels. But there are individuals in this town that are very much so aware of the 9 deaths on the street and the 11 deaths in the jail and the brutality that has been put upon our community. We represent 17% of Freeport.
Thank you, Wendy.
We have the
If you'd
most
like to
people
have additional
incarcerated,
minutes, you could
and
do
the
that at the end.
majority of the people that were killed in these streets and murdered in the jails look like us.
Thank you, Wendy. And who would that be, so I can put him on the list? Yes? If you could state your name, that would be helpful.
Is this close enough? You guys can hear me? Okay. My name is Michael UG. I was born in Milwaukee, raised here. My brother's raised here too.
I'm sorry, did you say your last name is Eugene?
Yeah, Michael UG.
You're going to want to
After
speak
the-
in the microphone a little better so the audience at home can hear you.
After the protests happened on Sunday, you guys put a curfew out. You guys demonized us. But I didn't see any one of you out there trying to protect things like we did. There was about 5 people destroying things, causing chaos. The peaceful protesters went and picked up after them. Me and my crew turned into counter-rioters. We turned into medics. We were shot at. Not the people causing damage. While we were getting shot at, those people moved on to do more damage. We have video. We have footage. We've been making content, trying to reach out to you guys. Y'all didn't listen. So I went out to Milwaukee. I went back to my hometown. I'm now a part of the New Milwaukee. It's a group that has more members than the population of Freeport right now. We've been out there for 17 days. Why aren't you guys talking to us? Now, can you guys respond to me right now? I don't know how these things work. Wendy was suggesting making civil disobedience classes, protest classes, things that you guys failed to teach us, the new generation, in order to become a part of this discussion. So we took it upon ourselves. With the Social Justice Committee, I'm asking you guys now, and I want a response. Will you denounce white supremacy? Because social justice has a lot to do with white supremacy. No response? Are you not allowed to?
Public comment, we aren't.
You can say whatever you'd like, there's just no interaction.
I understand now. As I said, you guys didn't prepare us. Kind of true, really true. You need to denounce white supremacy. You need to address the systemic white society that we live in that puts people like us under. If we don't see that, I'm bringing Milwaukee to Freeport.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, that concludes public comment. Oh, I'm sorry, you had some phone-ins. Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you. This is from Colton Havens. I am writing this letter regarding the appointments of the Social Justice Committee. I appreciate the hard work and time you have invested so far in recruiting the members. Fair representation is crucial for the success of this committee. You picked a good list of great leaders and community-minded individuals. I know the majority of them personally, and they are truly great people. Not trying to open up a can of worms, but one thing I would just like to point out is the fact that there is only 2 people that are under the age of 50 on the 12-person committee. Again, I am not discriminating based off age. I am just saying there could have been an equal balance of boomers and millennials. But we can only look forward from here. I look forward to seeing what the mission of this committee is, what issues they address, how they plan on addressing the issues, and most importantly, what the plan of action is. Best regards, Colton Havens. The next is from Sabra Baker. To our members of the City Council, I write to you today in regards to the forming of the Social Justice Committee. I was heartened to see the initiative taken in the forming of this committee. It filled me with hope to see the response to the outcry from our community. However, my concern is that I was not aware of this committee until it had already been formed and members appointed. How many other residents were unaware as well? Did you all, as members of the City Council, get feedback from those whose voices need to be heard? Did you allow the community time to provide needed feedback on those that they would like to represent their best interests? Are the current appointees affluent members of the community, or are they individuals who have a wide range of economic backgrounds? I ask each member of the City Council to comment on how they determined their recommendations to the Social Justice Committee. I also ask that a motion be made to allow residents the time needed to put names forward that they feel would best represent their interests to serve on the aforementioned committee. I ask that the top 3 names per ward be made public before the City Council meeting on June 29, 2020. I ask that we as a community be allowed to approve the committee representatives of our wards through a vote with results shared at the following City Council meeting scheduled for July 13. We hear the voices clamoring for justice and reform. We see the faces angry at misrepresentation and inequalities built into the very foundations of our country and communities. We ask that these voices be allowed to be fairly represented on a committee formed in response to, emphasis added, their outcry. I know that we need quick and decisive action in regards to social justice, and the suggestions outlined above will take time. I ask and welcome any suggestions to gain the needed representation on this committee through other recourse as well. Thank you for your time, service, and consideration on this matter. Sincerely, Sabra Baker, 7th Ward.
Okay, thank you. That concludes public comments from the phone-ins as well. So item number 3 is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature unless there's a member of the council that would like to have something removed for further discussion. Is there anything, council? Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of approving and placing on file the audit from Whipley, the fire department report from May 2020, the liquor commission minutes from May 14th and May 28th, 2020, the approval of Lauterbach and Amon reports for the police pension fund actuarial valuation report and the fire department, firefighters pension fund actuarial valuation report. The Gatsby 67 and 68 for firefighters pension fund and the police pension fund, and the Gatsby 74, 75, the post-retirement health plan. Financial reports from the general fund, library fund, water fund, sanitary sewer fund, and the storm sewer fund dated May 31st, 2020. The cash and investment reports from May 2020, and the approval of the finance bills payable in the total of $595,130, and the approval of payroll for pay period ending June 6, 2020, in the total of $587,776.30. Is there a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Misick. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
I'm sorry, Busker and whom? Misick. I believe Alderperson Brashaw can hear us now. Okay, she will be marked present at 6:30. The vote on the motion, Misick,
Aye.
Berberet,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
and Brashaw.
Aye. Motion
Passes 8-0.
Thank you. Since I can't see everybody that's around the corner there, is Billy Adams here? No? Okay, then I will read the proclamation from here and mail it to him. This proclamation is, whereas during the famed Lincoln-Douglas debate, Douglas made the statement that Freeport will always be a community of separation and segregation. And whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring that slaves in the Confederate territory free, paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed some 2.5 years to June 19th, 1865, in reaching the authorities and the African Americans in the South and Southwest United States. And whereas Emancipation Day observations are held on different days in different states in the South and Southwest and in other parts of the nation. And whereas June 19th has a special meaning to African Americans, is called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and have been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years. And whereas, let it be known that the words of Stephen Douglas concerning slavery, segregation, and separation are now replaced by Mayor Miller and the City Council with words of life, unity, freedom, and reconciliation. Now therefore, I, Jody Miller, Mayor of the City of Freeport, by the authority vested in me, do hereby declare June 19th and 20th as Juneteenth Community Celebration Days in the City of Freeport, and urge our citizens to attend and support local celebrations and become more aware of the significance of this celebration in African American history and in the heritage of our nation and city. And I know that Mr. Adams was going to talk a little bit about the celebrations. I know at his place, Junior's place on Saturday, they have some things, but I don't know details. So I'm sure you can find that on Facebook if you'd like to avail yourself to that. And then next is a swearing in. So if I can have our new director join me. And then if you want to turn so that way the audience can, if you want to stand there and so the camera can see you, that would be great. And I'm going to turn this so that way they can hear you instead. Fantastic. Okay, so if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, William R. Boyer,
I, William R. Boyer,
have been appointed to the Director of Public Works
have been appointed to the Director of Public Works
in the City of Freeport,
in the City of Freeport,
in the County of Stevenson.
in the County of Stevenson.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my appointment
the duties of my appointment
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Rob. We're happy to have you a part
Thank
of the
you,
team.
Mayor.
Thank you. And if you would like to sign both copies, you can keep one and then give the other one to Debbie at your convenience. So I don't know if you'd like to take a picture with your family, have them
I
come
would.
forward. And you're welcome to say a few things as well. So if you'd like to say
I'd just like to address the council and say thank you for this opportunity. I've been interested in public works for quite a long time, and I've also had my experience in the private sector. So I'm hoping that I can bring excellence to our public works department and propel that and advance the city of Freeport. These are my lovely children. You guys can draw those if you want. This is Mary, Elizabeth, Lily, Harold, and my little guy Bruce, and this is my wonderful wife Kate. We celebrate our anniversary in November. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
thank you again. And Kurt, can you see if housing is on for a call? Babette, are you there?
Yes, Babette is here.
Wonderful. Thank you. Go ahead.
Sure. I won't take much of your time given the technical difficulties. You all received the report from the Housing Authority of the City of Freeport for your last meeting. A few things, a few accomplishments that I would like to share with you all. I received a phone call the other day from HUD that the recommendation and certification for our Section 18 application for the demolition and disposition of Parkside Apartment has been sent to the field office, that's been sent to the headquarters in Washington, D.C., so we should get the final confirmation in probably about 3 weeks. That being the case, we'll be able to move forward with relocating residents, and we will provide them with as much support as they need in searching for qualified lease dwellings. Also, I wanted to share in terms of our public housing scoring, we have submitted our financial data schedule, the unaudited schedule, which is normally due 5/31, 2020. We've received a 6-month extension, which all PHAs have received an extension for 6 months, but we just submitted ours. It looks as though we have moved from trouble to substandard, which is a pretty significant accomplishment given the fact that our financial score has increased from last year being 0 out of 25 to 22 out of 25, and which has put us in the substantial. My greatest hope is that by year end and moving into the next fiscal year, we will be considered a standard performer. I don't know if you all have any questions, but I mean, that was pretty much what I wanted to share with you all for this meeting.
Thank you, Babette. Congratulations on those improved scores. Questions, Council?
Any questions or expectations of additional information from the report that I submitted?
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan?
Thank you, Director. This is Alderman McClanathan. Looking at your reports, when you talked about Goal 2, and it looks like some of the time frames were moved back due to the public health crisis. Is that going to include the Parkside, or is that going to include Parkside, or is that just dealing with some of the other inventory that's been submitted for removal? Yeah, I'll email her on that then. Yeah.
Any other questions, Council? You want to reword that?
I don't think she's still there.
Are you there, Babette?
Okay, yes. I hear you now. I couldn't hear you until now.
Okay, we're going to try that again.
Director, it's Alderman McClanathan. Thank you for your report. And regarding the Goal 2 physical inventory, when it was talking about a delay based on the public health crisis, is that also going to impact Parkside, or is that largely looking at other items of inventory that have been submitted for removal?
Okay, my apologies if I didn't hear the complete question. I'm sorry, I just couldn't hear the whole question. Could you repeat that, please?
Is the delay you referenced in Goal 2 of your written report going to impact Parkside or just other inventory? I'll email her.
Babette, we're gonna allow a email conversation with that one just because of the technical difficulties, so we apologize.
Oh, okay, I'm so sorry.
Okay, unless there's something else, Council? Okay, thanks, Babette.
Thank you.
We will move on to item number 7, which is the Stevens County Health Department's update. So, Craig Bentema.
I think you might be able to see a little better if we turn one of those lights off, if that would be okay. All right. We'll just try to, whoops. Is that you or me? The age of technical difficulties.
Craig, when you start talking, can you move that microphone back?
Sorry. Am I close enough? I'm just talking, okay. Okay. All right, I know that's small print up here, and I'm gonna try to, this is the, sort of the intro. The coronavirus is a respiratory type virus, and it's spread from person to person. It causes the novel means new, coronavirus that was first identified in investigation in Wuhan, China. Probably something we don't hear about too much anymore because it's in the United States. The symptoms include fever, cough, difficulty breathing, or shortness of breath. And there's other confirmed additional risks, such as either health conditions or travel to other widespread areas of infection. Other things they found is that it causes clotting, and that can be related to strokes and also in the kidney functions. Now, the social or physical distancing of 6 feet, 10 minutes, mask, hand washing, sanitizer. Those are the only things we got to be able to combat this or keep it at a minimum. There's no vaccine or treatments at this time. Now, the president did say a warp speed type of program. We'll see. There's any estimates of December or February or March to have vaccines. Now, we do case follow-up with positive cases. Every time there's a positive case, we have to track all contacts. On average, there's 5 contacts per every positive case, and we have to talk with them every day. So once you see the number of how many positive cases, you can multiply that by 5, and that's how many people have to be contacted. Now, I have the next one here. It says quarantine. I have minimum of 10-day isolation period for all COVID-19 confirmed or probable cases. This includes healthcare workers and non-healthcare workers. And what they mean by that is in businesses, okay? Not necessarily the hospital, non-medical staff. It's a 10-day, we still hear about 14, but when we say 10, it means 10 days, and then you have to have 3 days without symptoms, without medication, okay? Now, the next one is the 14-day quarantine period for close contacts. And that played havoc when we first got started and still does. What that means is if you're identified as a contact with a positive case, you needed to be quarantined at home for 14 days. When we got started, and it's still going on now, that you can call your physician and they'll say, don't come in, quarantine yourself. Then you have businesses that will, they get called and they don't have any record from a physician that says this employee needs to be off. That was quite a tough situation, but we worked through it. Okay, now 72 hours have passed since recovery, defined as resolution of fever without the use of medications. That's what I was speaking about before, 72 hours after that 10-day period. Then here, if an employee is confirmed to have COVID-19 infection, employers should inform fellow employees of the possible exposure to the COVID-19. What happens is that a letter would go out, low risk, there was a positive case, but you have a low risk. It's just to inform. A person who is an employee must contact and tell their employer that this is what goes on. Now I'm gonna hope to turn to, okay, whoops, I went the wrong direction, excuse me. Okay, I wanna do COVID by the numbers, and this is how many cases we have as of today. That's 235 right here. Now, I need to change that 213 to 216 because I didn't add properly. And so we have 216 cases in what I'll say Freeport proper. Cases outside of Freeport is 19. Out of all those 235, 151 have recovered. We've had 5 deaths, all of Freeport. And then we have currently 4 of our active cases are hospitalized, 1 in ICU, and I'm understanding that that's no longer true as of 3 o'clock this afternoon. So we don't have 1 in the ICU. Okay, 32 overall have been hospitalized since March. The number of tests is 2,351 tests. Total pending is 31. Now, these are the ones that get concerning that have happened. And these are the businesses that we have been following. Pearl Valley Eggs is at 14. Snack King was at 34. Nuestro Queso was 48. And Burner Foods was at 10. At this time, there's been no further positive cases since May 15th of Pearl Valley Eggs, the Nuestro Queso, and Burner Foods. Snack King just recently, Friday, had 1 more. Now I'm gonna make sure I go the right direction. Okay, I have COVID by the numbers. These are the percents based off of ethnicity or race. 13.66% were African American, 63.35% was Hispanic, 22.98% was white Caucasian. Now, 60% of the positive cases were male, 40% were female. I don't think they really have a particular reason for that. Okay, I'm gonna try to. Cases in county. I wanna explain those colors. Right here, this is the number of tests, or negative, excuse me. And then here is the number of positive, which is this blue line, flat line. Number of pending is the yellow that moves up and down. What I look at, now obviously this, we talk about a flat line, well that is flat, but to place it in with these other numbers, it has to be relatively flat. Now, what we're seeing is that the number of cases have decreased. We did at one time, we were having 9, 10, and one day 15. Now we're down to 1 or 2. The state was having 2,000 cases a day. Now today I see it's 497, which is on the downside of the peak. So if you can imagine a peak goes like this, rises up and settles down and starts to go down. I believe we're on the downswing. Just based off of the numbers. Now, historically, when I look back, there has only been one virus or disease episode that didn't have a second. And that was a bubonic plague where the entire town died. So there was no chance of having a second wave. So when will that be? We don't know. What can play havoc, though, as we go along is if it starts materializing during fall flu season, it will be hard to distinguish and be very difficult. Okay. Restore Illinois phases. The executive order and the governor and IDPH and a whole lot of other folks put together a 5-phase plan. We are currently in phase 3. Right? We are scheduled here phase 4, probably June 26th. And they'll just see as you go to phase 4 here, which is always concerning to me, is that once we hit phase 4, you'll see a gatherings of 50. Well, phase 5 needs a vaccine, needs a treatment. So there could be some time in between those 2 phases. Okay. Now, I know these are not always the best kind of charts I like to do because they're kind of hard to see, but, okay, we have a region that has 26 counties. Okay? It goes from Boone to Joe Davis, to the south, all the way down to Peoria and McLean County. It has 26 counties within it. The parameters, what you have to look for here is positivity rate, which is you have to be less than 20. That is the number of positive cases divided by the number of tests. Currently, right now, in Stevenson County, it is 0.97%, well within the parameters. And the thing is the whole region has to move. Right now, right here, we're at 5%. Now these May 8th, May 19th, June 7th. There'll be another one in another week. They look at it as 14 days of separation. The other categories here is that hospitalization rates, no overall increase in the hospital admissions for COVID-like illnesses for 28 days. Now these are here, May 8th, at that time there was a 35% increase. For the next 2 weeks, and marked at May 19th, it's 44%. So we still have a decrease. You don't want an increase. And on June 7th, it was 21% decrease. So it's still really going in the right direction. Now here, availability of surge capacity of at least 14% of ICU beds, medical, surgical beds, and ventilators. So you want something higher than 14%. We are in the north central region. I should have said that because I tried to put a yellow line underneath. And as you come down, you'll see that our area for those particular dates, we're well within, way above 14%. So looking at this, it's easy to say that we should be moving out of phase 3 into phase 4 by June 26th. Now, Restore Illinois, there's 5 phases. I said there's 28 days between phase changes. The parameters have changed. I know I said it, but our positivity rate need less than 20. Ours is 8.19. That was 2 days ago. It jumped up to 9. And the region is now actually 5%. Okay? No overall increase in the admissions for 28 days. Now, the next couple slides, this right here, this particular URL, if you clicked on it, you're going to see some other slides that if you wanted to look, you could say, hey, I wonder if that guy that was talking came to talk to us and telling us the truth. This is what you'll see. You'll see positivity rates. When you go on there, you're going to have to look for EMS regions 1 and 2. What you'll see is the green area. You'll want to see that the needle is pointing inside that green area. And they all are within that percents. It makes it a little easier than reading graphs. Okay. I do want to say that sometimes with everything that goes on, there is a lot of good that happens. I've had nothing but praise and good working relation with Mayor Jody Miller and Matt, Chief of Police, and Randy also, and Jody's probably tired of having me call her. And we've just been working well together. And I can't thank you enough because it's made my life a whole lot easier. For the last several months, I've basically done nothing but COVID. And interesting call, I had got one and I really wasn't recognizing the voice, but they asked me, is this COVID Craig? And I thought, well, that's odd. All right, yes, why not? I've been called more than that many a times. And so I would welcome any questions that you might have. There's a lot that goes on. Hopefully soon, we can kind of get back to a new normal. I'm just not sure when.
Thank you, Craig, and I appreciate working with you as well. It's always been a pleasure, and I would say now that when your name pops up on my phone, I'm not dreading it, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are there any questions, council?
Mayor.
Alderman McClanathan?
Thank you. Just a couple questions. I've seen some announcements, I think, in regards to some local testing being provided this week. Do you have any information in regards to that?
Yes, that will be 5 to 7:30. It'll probably go a little longer than that, but just wouldn't want to have long lines at 8:30 when it starts getting dark. But it's at the Burchard Hill site. FHN and Health Department are combining efforts to have that in their parking lot. And that'll be this Wednesday, 5 to 7:30, and then again the following week.
And you don't have to have a doctor's appointment, you don't have to have any symptoms. If you just choose to come, then you have that availability. But it does not tell you, correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, if you've had COVID, it's just a right now.
That's correct.
Okay.
The test is right now when you have it.
Follow-up, Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate all the slides and particularly the ones in regards to where we at locally in regards to equipment. I think you said like ICU beds and ventilators and one other. Generally across the board, are we well positioned from an equipment standpoint if there is a resurgence, which you talked about?
Equipment like, can I ask what, mask-wise or
Sure.
personal? Okay. We're trying to get to a 60-day supply. That's what we're recommending with all first responders, the government here, City Hall, the courthouse. And it's going to be kind of tough because at this point, as of June 1st, what we call the Strategic National Stockpile, that the equipment that comes from the state shuts off. And June 1st, any order that's not in, you're on your own. You have to be able to obtain that. Now, there's been other avenues that we've worked, they call it a Battelle system, where you can take your mask, put them in a box, send them off, and they sanitize and they bring it back. And that's been quite useful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Busker?
Yes. Is there any word of antibody tests being available in the future here coming up?
There probably is, but it's going to tell you if you had it. It doesn't tell you if you have the antibody level to prevent it from getting again. I mean, they call it IgG, and you can get that test. I wouldn't say that it's widely used in the area right now because everybody has been more focused in on testing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If there's nothing else,
All right.
thank you, Craig.
You're welcome.
We will move on to item number 8, which are 2 reappointments. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
Acceptance of reappointment of Sarah Stevenson Pesca to the Board of Zoning Appeals Commission effective until June 30th, 2025, and acceptance of reappointment of Michael Stingley to the Board of Zoning Appeals Commission effective until June 30th, 2025.
If it's okay with the council, we'll vote on this in one motion. Is there a motion to accept these 2 reappointments?
So moved. Second.
Is that McClanathan?
No, those two were Art.
I'm sorry, I can't tell where the sound is coming from
I
tonight.
think it was
So
either
we-
Art or I that first it. And
Okay,
I said
so
second.
we'll go with Alderman Ross and seconded by Alderman Misick. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on these reappointments?
Misick,
Aye.
Berberet,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
and Brashaw.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 9 is a second reading of ordinance 2020-31. Could you please read this?
An ordinance adopting a revised City of Freeport employee handbook.
Thank you. Manager Bucus?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm recommending that this time that the City Council table the amendment to the employee handbook as it relates to the changes to social media until we have a better number on what it will cost us to archive our Facebook pages. The numbers we were using are a few years old, and we expect it to be higher than the $60,000 we were estimating. So we'll just continue to monitor our Facebook page as we currently are.
Mayor,
Alderman Borneman?
make a motion to table that until, I guess indefinitely.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Alderman Borneman, seconded by Alderman McClanathan to table ordinance 2020-31 until further notice. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Meissen.
Aye.
Berberet.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
And Brashaw.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Item number 10 is the first reading of ordinance 2020-33. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
An ordinance of the City of Freeport establishing a fair housing policy.
Thank you. Manager Bucus?
Thank you, Your Honor. The purpose of this ordinance is to meet certain grant requirements the city is currently applying for, one of which is the grant that we had a public hearing on earlier tonight for $2.5 million. In the past, we've submitted our applications, but without the written policy, and that has sometimes hindered our approach to obtaining some of these funds. The Fair Housing Policy does not establish any landlord registrations, require any housing inspections or other restrictions. The policy basically says that no owner, leasee, subleasee, agent, or other person having the right to sell, rent, or lease any housing accommodations within the city will refuse to sell, rent, lease, or otherwise deny, or withhold from any person or groups of persons housing accommodations and or real estate because of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, creed, or physical or mental handicap. There's nothing in this ordinance that prohibits an owner, operator, agent, or financial institution from denying housing to a person or groups of persons based on poor paying or debit history or any other criteria that they may use when they're reviewing their applications.
Questions, Council?
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan?
thank you. It seems like something that's been around a long time in regards to federal or state policies at some level. So, I mean, I guess have we been getting feedback from grants and things of that nature that we don't have this on our books? I mean, I'm just kind of curious about the history of this. I know you obviously don't have a long history in regards to it, but it seems pretty boilerplate. How did we get here?
Yeah, it's boilerplate policy as well. Why we haven't adopted one in the past, I really can't tell you, but it's something that the state's starting to do now. They're starting to put a lot of different policies or procedures that even contractors have to sign off on now as it relates to equal opportunity employment and those type of things. So it's just, a sign of the times.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Busker?
make a motion to move this forward.
Second.
Second.
Are there any other discussion on this particular topic, Council? Otherwise, we have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Brashaw, to move ordinance 2020-33 on to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Item number 11 is the first reading of ordinance 2020-34. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
Mayor, I have a question first. Who was the second on that?
Brashaw.
Ordinance 2020-34, an ordinance amending Part 2, Administration Code, Title 2, General Provisions, adopting Chapter 239 to the codified ordinances of the City of Freeport regarding acquisition and disposition of real estate.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, real property.
Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city has accumulated a number of properties over the years, and some were foreclosures where fines were not paid. Others were just future potential uses we thought we'd use for the property, and others were either gifts or donations to the city. Currently, to dispose of these properties, an appraisal has to be made, a bid or auction has to be conducted, and the amount of the bid has to be at least 80% of the appraised price. With some of these parcels, the cost of appraisal alone is more than what the market value is of the property. Under the ordinance that's being proposed, the city manager is authorized as a city's agent to execute or accept deeds, easements, licenses, leases, dedications, or other documents necessary to acquire property or dispose of the real property. Prior to any acquisition or disposition involving real property interest, the city attorney shall approve the forms of the documents utilized in the transaction. So therefore, there's at least two people that are reviewing each parcel. If the property is under $10,000, the city manager can sell, trade, buy, or lease the property, and this provision will make it easier to sell or donate some parcels like county trustee properties the city has acquired to adjoining property owners. It also makes it easier to correct a transaction when something is missing in the resolution or deed. In disposing property, the city manager can sell real property if the city council declares specific parcels of public property surplus and no longer necessary for city use. And there again, Your Honor, it also allows the city manager to declare property to be surplus if it's under $10,000, and that's something I would still bring to City Council for your approval. And so I'm asking for City Council to move this ordinance forward.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Misick.
Manager Bucas, could you share what this would look like as a property is changing hands, as to how the council becomes aware of properties sold after this, assuming this ordinance were to be passed?
Right. The City Council still has to declare the property surplus, so you'll be aware of it. And I would bring anything that would go before being sold to the City Council, because I don't want to put my reputation on the line.
Thank you.
But
Madam Mayor?
it does make it easier to move forward on it.
Sorry.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Manager Bucas, does this include empty lots?
Yes, the majority of these properties that we're talking about are empty lots. They're either adjacent to homeowners that are interested in obtaining some of these lots. We've had a couple of inquiries over the last couple of months. We have a lot downtown that somebody's interested in putting a parking lot in that we're looking at possibly deeding to them as well.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. Manager Bucas, when these properties go up for sale to the public, or they are considered surplus, do they still have the liens attached to them?
Most of the properties that we have, the liens were forgiven. That's how we obtained the property, either through trustee sale or through donation.
Thank you.
Manager Bucas, do you have any idea how many parcels you're talking about that could possibly be those vacant lots that you might offer to a neighbor to be able to acquire those?
I'd be shooting in the dark if I said a number, Your Honor.
Any other questions, Council?
Mayor?
Yes, Alderman McLanathan.
Thank you. I'm looking at this in the lens of not necessarily if any of us are sitting at the table or if you're sitting at the table, but looking at it kind of in the worst possible light, how could this potentially be abused and what are the checks and balances against that? You indicated that any of these properties that are looking to be sold would have to be declared surplus property by council prior to the city manager being able to exercise this authority. Are there also reports made? I'm looking, I think, at Section A. I think it talked about reports to council for acquisitions not formally otherwise formally approved by council. Could you talk us through, in addition to city legal counsel having to sign off and the city manager signing off, what are the other checks and balances that we have here?
Well, there again, a report would be made to council on every transaction that was taking place. Even if the city manager declared the property surplus because it was under $10,000, it would still be a report that would go to the council.
Follow up, Mayor?
Sure.
Is there anything significant about it having to go to the council within 30 days versus 14, 15 days? What's the thought process there?
Well, the real purpose is the one trying to speed up. Sometimes we just, because of whatever reason, there has to be a process be sped up. But the real problem is trying to get the appraisal, trying to get it in a timely fashion, and then, like I said, that sometimes the cost of the appraisal is more than what the property's worth, and then you have to bid it out once you get the appraisal, and that takes at least 14, if not 30 days to seek bids. And so it just slows down the process where somebody's interested in developing a piece of property and they're trying to get all their ducks in order and their financing. It may hamper their plans, and it may even torpedo their plans because they're not guaranteed whether they'll have the property or not. A lot of these parcels we're looking at, though, are residential lots that are really small, and some probably aren't even buildable. That if we get two homeowners, because if somebody approached us and wanted a parcel of land, we'd contact the person next to them too and see if they wanted it, and then we'd split it in half. So so we give everybody an opportunity once we're aware of it.
Anything else, Council?
Yes, Mayor.
Hmm?
A question for legal counsel. Does this all fall under home rule authority? We don't run into any statutory issues by the way that this is set up?
This ordinance is set up using our home rule authorities. State statute provides a very set structure, which is pretty rigid, as Manager Bucas referenced. So this is allowing for some flexibility under our home rule powers. And it's my understanding that I believe the city of Champaign has done this as well there, and this is what this is modeled off of.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman Borneman?
Manager, do you anticipate the report to be something that's included in the consent agenda, or do you anticipate it being a formal item on agendas?
It would just be a report then with the council.
And we'd have to sign off on this, or you're just making us aware of it?
No, if you already approved it as surplus property, then that was the formal action on the part of council. So it'd just be a report to each council member that this week we sold some, or bought some property.
Thanks.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Ross?
Director Bucas, when you say surplus property, wouldn't that be the same as the tax sale or not?
No, a tax sale is something that the county conducts. This would not be a tax sale.
Okay, then when you say surplus property, could you let me know what that means?
It's property that the city no longer needs or desires to have.
Okay, follow up, Mayor. And we have individuals that's interested in these surplus properties, correct?
We've had a couple of inquiries over the last couple of months, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw?
I would like to make a motion to move this forward.
Second.
Okay. Unless there's any further discussion, we have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Busker to move ordinance 2020-34 on to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Item number 12 is first reading of ordinance 2020-35. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
An ordinance amending section 220.11G of the codified ordinances of the city of Freeport regarding the composition of the Social Justice Committee.
Thank you. Alderpersons McClanahan and Borneman.
I can take that, Mayor. Thank you. So, Council, as you recall from last meeting, the ordinance sets out the amount of members that are from the public on the committee to 12. After learning of the proposed candidates, I, like the public comments focused on, noticed that a lack of diversity when it came to the age of those individuals. So after speaking with McClanahan, we requested the mayor or present an amended ordinance to add an additional person because the 12 candidates, none of them were under 30, and I was told that only two were under 50, and I don't think that's a fair representation of the community as a whole. So this adds a 13th member, and it's my understanding that the mayor is going to present somebody for our consideration in their 20s. So this will help us acknowledge the desire and the motivation for the younger people in our community, not just to be heard, but to get involved. And I think a great example of that was the March on Stevenson from a couple weeks ago. I think that was an overwhelming success on all accounts, and that was organized by 3 people in their early 20s. So I think going forward without anybody from that generation would be a mistake for the committee. So that's the purpose of this amendment. It adds a 13th member, and my understanding that member will be someone in their 20s. Any questions?
Alderman McClanathan, did you have something to add?
No, well, sure, briefly. In regards to that, I noticed. Again, as we mentioned at the meeting last week, when we have the size limitations that we have, it's going to be incredibly hard to hit every target that you can. I appreciated the work that was put in by you, Mayor, in regards to the committee that you put together, trying to hit a fair amount of different segments of the community, backgrounds, experience, and so when it was mentioned that one area that it seems to be that we might be a bit lacking on is the younger generation, it seemed to make sense, and obviously. I mean, looking through the list, it's not like there's somebody you say, well, let's disinvite this person. They all bring something to the table, what you put together. So I think the idea of, you also don't want to get the committee too large either, but I think adding an additional seat, and my understanding is you have presented somebody in regards to that age group, somebody that I think that had reached out in regards to being part of the committee. So I think it does help provide some balance on it. I mean, is every composition perfect? No, but I think adding the 13th chair and the individual that was brought forward in front of the council would be a good addition. So that's why when we were discussing it, I said, yeah, I'd be in support of making that addition to try to make as good of a committee as we can.
Thank you. Madam Mayor?
Alderman Misick?
Yeah, thank you, Alderpersons Borneman and McClanathan, for bringing this forward. And I certainly agree with the thoughts, really the sentiments, to make sure we have a good representation. I know last week as we discussed this matter as well, I shared some concern. We were having an open discussion really on the makeup of the committee, and it was voted for the council to be added on as ex officio members. And I've since had a discussion with Alderman McClanathan on this, and really I think we came to an agreement, really understanding this. The principle is really that the committee is made up of people from the community, and really it is a community-driven committee, and very much support the outcome of this discussion is very much determined by the committee itself. And I highly respect those who have put in time to select people for this committee. I also see the ability to draw out the very best of each person who's sitting on that committee. And I just very much from my heart is to allow for those voices of the public really to be heard very well. And so those in council serving as ex officio members is to allow that conversation to be driven by the public members. So it's a good position for all of us to be engaged in that process as the committee is taking place, and for all of us to be present as we can be in all of those discussions. So I do appreciate the conversation we had last week. Thank you.
Any further discussion, council, concerning the additional member? Is there a motion to move this forward?
So moved.
Second.
Yes, so this would be the amended version of ordinance 2020-35 as it states. So we have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Ross to move this forward.
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan?
I believe, as the interest is of getting the committee set up, I'd make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
That would be correct. If the quicker we can get it done, the quicker we can start our meetings. So we have a motion to suspend the rules made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Misick. Suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must pass by a 2/3 majority. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the suspension only?
Misick.
Aye.
Berberet.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
And Brashaw.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0.
Now for final passage of the amended version of ordinance 2020-35, unless there's further discussion. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the passage?
Misick.
Aye.
Berberet.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
And Brashaw.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 13 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-31. Madam Clerk, could you please read this for the record?
Resolution committing local funds for a Build Illinois grant for well house number 11 water treatment plant.
Director Kopansky.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The resolution that we're discussing about now ties in with the public hearing that was held before this council meeting. At the public hearing, we communicated that we're looking to go and borrow $2.5 million to receive a grant from the Rebuild Illinois public infrastructure portion of the Rebuild Illinois. And this is from the Illinois Department of Commerce. The remaining balance of whatever we get from the grant, we will have to provide how that is going to be paid. And what we're doing is that we're communicating that we're going to utilize a state of Illinois IEPA from the loan program. So this just memorializes where we are going to use the remaining balance with whatever grant money we get.
Questions, Council?
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan?
Director, this is Alderman McClanathan. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. This is a project that's been in the works for a while, and but for this grant opportunity, we were going to have it to be expending from loan funds regardless. So using these grant funds will actually be to an additional benefit to the city. Is that correct?
You're absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, Council?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Busker?
make a motion to adopt resolution R20-31.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Misick for the adoption of this resolution. Unless there's further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Misick.
Aye.
Berberet.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
And Brashaw.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Item number 14 is a motion to approve a bid. Madam Clerk, would you please read this?
Bid opening on June 10th, 2020 for Empire Court Mill and Overlay.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our new Public Works Director, Rob Boyer, noticed in the mission our bid specifications for Empire Court. Price to do the road repair work was omitted, and since this could be a costly item in the $30,000 to $40,000 range, I'm recommending that the City Council reject all bids and we rebid the project. We still have time to do it this year.
Nice catch.
He did it before he was on the payroll, too. He did over the weekend.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman Warneman.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion, council? Otherwise, we have a motion made by Alderman Borneman, seconded by Alderman Busker to reject this bid. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Misick,
Aye.
Berberet,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
and Brashaw.
Aye.
The motion to reject passes 8-0.
Next is report of department heads. Finance. Thank you. Community development.
No report tonight, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Is this our last meeting with you, Director Zupkoff?
Yes, it is indeed.
Well, we are sad to hear that. We have so appreciated everything that you've done for the city, and we knew this day would come. You are a fabulous young man moving forward quickly, and the community that you are heading to is going to see a lot of great things, and we're jealous. So thank you for being a part of our community.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. You, the City Council, and everyone in Freeport has an open invite to come down to Florida anytime you want.
Look out.
All at one time?
Thank you. Public Works. Fire. Thank you. Police Department? Water and Sewer.
We'll see nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. IT? Library, are you on?
I am, thank you. I just wanted to give you a quick update that we updated some of our services starting today. We are doing computer access by appointment. So if you would like to use a computer at the library, call us, 815-233-3000. Right now, we are limiting it to each person can have 1 hour per week, but if we aren't filling up our appointment slots, we will change that. But right now, appointments are Monday, Thursday, and Friday, 10 to 3, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 2 to 7 p.m. And then when we start moving into phase 4 is when we would start reopening the library building with the new safety measures in place for sanitizing things. Does anybody have any questions?
I think not. Thank you very much, Director. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Assistant Hines, are you on?
Yes, I do. I have nothing.
No update.
There's nothing.
Okay, we're going to guess that you said you had nothing, so we'll move on. And Airport, are you on tonight? Seeing not, we have the City Manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. The only thing I'd like to add to what I haven't already discussed this evening is that we are looking at reopening under Phase 4, possibly July 1st. We're going to be meeting as department heads and talk about how we could open up our facilities on a limited basis, and we'll be getting a report back to you before then. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And then next would be appointments. Madam Clerk, could you please read this for the record?
Appointment, I guess it doesn't exactly say. Oh, at the end, Social Justice Committee. Appointments of Co-Chair T.J. Jackson, Chief of Police Matthew Summers, Fire Chief Brad Liggett, 3rd Ward Alderman Art Ross, Anna Alvarado, Anthony Dedman, Charles Threadgill, Evelyn Ramos, Jeanette Diddens, Joanne McGee, Joy Sellers, Lance Ferguson, Mike Sowell, Pat Norman, Pat Pearson, and Pat Vanderberg to the Social Justice Committee, effective immediately through December 15th, 2020.
Thank you. By ordinance, like every commission, every board, every committee, appointments are made by the mayor and they're approved by the City Council. These individuals, I believe, will bring a large variety of life experiences with solutions to the table. I believe these individuals will help to identify root issues within our community, as well as possible solutions to be brought back to the council. I anticipate several presentations being made to this committee by some of our local agencies. I also anticipate some listening sessions to be scheduled. The majority of these public members are new to city committees, and I believe it is important to have a fresh perspective and a new set of eyes. I, along with these new members, look forward to the betterment of our community, and I would hope that you would accept their appointments this evening.
Your Honor.
Alderman Parker?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Berberet. Is there any further discussion, Council?
Mayor,
Alderman Borneman?
I want to clarify, earlier it was mentioned Anna Alvarado works for the city. She's in fact the superintendent for Freeport School District, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Are there any, other than, as for members of the public, there's no city employees on there, right?
The four members of the city are myself, Alderman Ross, and both chiefs.
Right.
And that's it. The rest are all public members.
Okay, and then a follow-up to that. What was the process for your selection of these individuals?
Well, I had several individuals call me, and I reached out to a few. Just took wide variety of both men and women, and their experience, their passion. It's amazing how many people are passionate about seeing our community be a better place for all. And so I'm very appreciative of that. And I also have lots and lots of people that have also didn't make this number 13 list, but that doesn't mean they won't be utilized. I anticipate that there will be small groups. You know, we'll have short and long-term goals that we'll be setting, and I would anticipate that at some point there will be smaller committees that might branch out and have other things brought to the table. So, you know, we're looking at new paths that none of us know what it looks like. So we're just doing our best to be able to bring the reconciliation and reformation that's needed within our city.
Okay. Just to follow up on that.
Yeah, sure. The attorney just wanted it noted that the term is only 6 months. You know, sometimes people are apprehensive to make a commitment for 2, 3, 4 years. So we are purposely doing 6 months. Does not mean that it ends in 6 months. We're just not sure what it looks like after 6 months. So we'll move forward as we have a better understanding of what it looks like.
When do you anticipate the first meeting?
I'm hoping that reaching out to each one of them that we can do something maybe mid to late next week, if not definitely the following week.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan?
Thank you. I just want to take a moment to thank the individuals, well, everybody who's kind of reached in, but particularly the individuals listed here for their willingness to serve on this. And obviously, as we've seen, you know, putting yourself forward, I mean, it's not an easy process there, and I'm confident that they will tackle this work here before them. But again, I just wanted to say thank you to those individuals who did step forward. I do want to reiterate a comment I made last week that, again, this committee isn't the end-all or the only product in regards to that. So I do encourage other individuals to continue to find ways to get involved and engage in regards to this. Again, I don't view the committee as the only source of input or engagement as we move forward. But again, thank you to those public members who did step up and are willing to get involved in their community.
Mayor?
Alderman Borneman?
I just want to make a comment that I agree with Mr. McClanathan that it doesn't take a specific title or to serve on a committee to make a difference. And I think the youth in this community know that. And whether or not I would like to see more younger people on this. Maybe that's because I'm 32 and I can still kind of consider myself young. So I'll take advantage of that and I'll say that. But I think that it's frustrating from a young person's perspective, but at the same time, this is progress, and change comes slow, and I just encourage everyone. It's easy to be cynical, and it's fair to criticize things, but try to keep it in perspective and give this a chance. We don't know what it's going to be. All it is right now is potential, and we need to give it a chance to become what it's going to become. This country was founded on criticizing the government. I mean, the Boston Tea Party to the Revolutionary War to the Civil War. This is part of America here, and we're working to make a difference here. So my point is, give it a chance. It's easy to criticize, and it's fair to criticize things, but let's see how this plays out before we just completely give it up as a waste. So I kind of got off point there, but overall, like I said, I am voting for this. I am going to vote in favor of this. I do understand the frustrations of the youth in the community. But overall, before I started this rambling statement, the point is you don't need to be on a committee. You don't need to have a title to be a leader. And that's shown just like the young people who did that March on Stevenson and all these events that we've had. The March on Stevenson is a great example. Those were 3 people in their early 20s who didn't wait to be asked to do something that they saw a need and they did it. So let's work together on this one. And that's all I have to say.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Burberry.
As a perhaps corollary to Alderman Borneman, I guess I would consider myself the historian of the group, if by nothing else than age and having lived here in Freeport for 52 or more years. My wife and I have loved this community. I've seen many commissions, strategic plans, workforce development, strategic plans, and other types of organizations and committees and processes put together that just kind of slink away after a period of time. Some get more results than others, and they have been successful. And I'm hoping that this committee, in the current makeup, and as well as Alderman Borden said, others to get involved and to speak up. I think that's the most important thing we do, is speak up and let our feelings be known and our thoughts be known. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Alderman Parker.
I totally agree with what they said about getting the younger people on there. And nice thing with this group you have on here, they've worked most of their lives in this town, and they've dealt with the younger generation, and they still have the contacts. So we'll be getting it secondhand also. So thank you.
If there's no other comment, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Misick?
Aye.
Burberry?
Aye.
Borneman?
Aye.
McClanathan?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. And just one last thing to the community, please remember that COVID testing that's this coming Wednesday and the following, should you want to avail yourself to that as well. Otherwise, thank you, Council, for approving this. I appreciate it. I agree. You don't have to sit on a committee or have a title to have your voice heard. All we can do is put our best foot forward, and I believe that this group is very much community-minded, has many different ways of looking at this with fresh sets of eyes, and that's what I really appreciate about them. And so I'm anxious to see how this will go forward and make us a better community. Alderman Misick.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to share some of my own comments, and I want to thank all of the members of the public for sharing their voices regarding this committee. This is a very important part of our response to what is happening around us. And I have a mindset really to follow along these lines. Is I love to see passion. I love to see courage of stepping forward. I'm thankful to see young people willing to step forward and really any solutions that we come up with, I see a lot of this is on the side of learning and education and listening. And so I'm looking forward to new ideas to come forward in many different ways. And I love to see passion in people, and not just simply on the level of complaining and stating the problem, but coming with a problem and a solution and an idea. And really, we can structure all of this so well. I'm just speaking for myself right now, is to see, is there any bitterness behind what I'm saying? And just to restructure that or recenter myself and say, is love and kindness the thing that's motivating me? And when I'm centered in that, I'm able to think clearly and come up with solutions. And that's the mindset I choose to take personally, and I invite others to do the same as they serve on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Meiser. Alderman Berberay?
Nothing to add at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Alderman Borneman?
Nothing further.
Thank you. Alderman McClanahan?
No additional comment, thank you.
Alderman Ross?
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Parker?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Alderman Busker?
Nothing this evening.
Alderman Brashaw?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you, Council. Next is item number 19, which is public comments. Are there any public comments this evening? Peter?
Hello, guys. I just want to thank you guys for all your hard work into keeping the city safe and running. One of the, you mentioned Ordinance 2020-35. I appreciate you guys adding that 13th member, and I appreciate you guys realizing that there needs to be a young member there. But I feel like a lot of the comments earlier from the public, you guys kind of missed what they were trying to say. The point of all the protests and everything that's happening within the community is that they're just asking you guys to listen, and I don't think you guys did listen all the way, because the main concern was that there wasn't the community feels like they're not being listened, and that their voices aren't heard into how this committee was formed. And as much as I trust Mayor Jody's, Mayor Miller's judgment on these people, and they could be the best people ever, but the problem at hand isn't with the committee, it's about the community not feeling that they're being listened to. And with this forming of the committee, my opinion is that it was formed very quickly, within a couple weeks of the protest. And as much as I want to trust you guys, it just doesn't seem that you guys took a lot of the careful selection, and it seems rushed. So I think that's why there's a lot of comments about how was this committee created, how was this formed, why didn't a lot of the members of the community get a chance to interact or say something about it.
Thank you, Peter. Are there any other public comments? Yes, Michael?
So Peter told me I needed to calm down. I'm not that kind of person. If anybody, you should put him on the board, on the committee. I don't think that Jody, the police chief, the fire chief, they should be observing the committee. They shouldn't be on it. What Peter said was right. You do, all three of you have a lot on your plate. You could free up those spots and give it to people like Peter. I'm not gonna go on it, because I know interactions with all of you guys. I've been here my entire life, and you guys just think we're thugs. That night, I protected the shop you used to own, Jody. I protected a bunch of businesses down there. I'm not going to be on the committee because I'm a disruptor. I don't destroy, I just bring attention. So we need more than just one person in our age group. All that's going to happen is you guys are going to talk over us. We don't want representation. We want change. We want action. We want to do something. And that is why I went to Milwaukee. Because you guys shot me when I was trying to flush out a 16-year-old girl's eyes. And then you proceeded to put a curfew on us. Peter's right, you guys didn't listen. He's asking nicely. I'm demanding it.
Thank you, Michael. Any other comments? Then without executive session, is there a motion for adjournment?
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Ross, seconded by Alderman Misick. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Misick.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
And Brashaw.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Have a good evening.